March of 2020, my parents and I admitted myself to a behavioral hospital, or like BMED as they might call it, or I call it the suicide hospital. And it was because of suicidal ideation. I had been dealing with depression and anxiety for a couple years at this point, and things only started to get worse. I think it began when my parents got divorced, and then I had a really tough relationship that was pretty difficult on me emotionally. And honestly, I just felt like a loser. I didn't see the point in life. I was not a fan of school. I didn't see how it would help me. It didn't inspire me. I get all my homework done in class and then just feel like I wasn't progressing at all and didn't understand why the things I was learning were going to help me. And running is what saved me. And so I want to spend some time talking about why I run and how this fixed me. Because I was in a very dark place in the hospital where I was there for a week, and I met some I thought great kids, but they had some pretty intense backstories. There was this kid that was 13 years old, and he had a knife wound in his chest about like this big. Like, for comparison, it was like maybe that big of a slash across his chest, and he told us that he had stabbed himself. I met this guy who had scars all the way up to his elbows on both wrists from self-harming and cutting. And I met a guy who had been fostered, I think, to 6 different families at that time. And this put some perspective, like it gave me some perspective about how my life really wasn't as bad as other people. But it didn't fix the feelings because I needed to find a way to feel like I was achieving or just providing value to the world or living a purposeful life. And running is what gave me that. I think the biggest reason why I run, to boil this down, is to prove to myself that I don't quit. Because when I was in that hospital and right before that, I was very, very close to quitting in the biggest way possible and giving up on life. And not even in just going through the motions, but taking my own life. And so when I run, and the reason why I do it is because I want to prove that I don't quit and that I can be up against the wall with the most difficult things emotionally and mentally and physically, but more so mentally and emotional, and still get through it. And I think I run to prove to that little kid, myself, that I can do hard things and I can get through tough situations. And as I started running and as I started doing ultras, that's when things really started to open up for me because I felt like I was pushing myself. And I started to realize if you want greatness, you find that in suffering, in intentional suffering that you put yourself through, or maybe even things that are thrown at you that you don't have any say or control in. When you find a way, when your back's against the wall and you see no light and there's no hope, and somehow you still make it happen, that is where you find a lot of gold and treasure in life. And so what I've learned over the last 4 years of running consistently is that if I intentionally put myself in difficult positions and difficult places like ultras or running for a course record or a PR, I walk away with some sort of fulfillment that overrides the emotional and mental difficulty I deal with. I'm not saying I try and numb this with racing. I might do that a little bit, but I'm trying to be more aware about when I need to sit with my emotions. But when I put myself in a situation and deal with that difficulty on purpose, when I come away from that, it makes the rest of life easier in my mind, at least emotionally. Doesn't mean hard things aren't going to happen, or that it might feel uncomfortable when a difficulty comes up, but the perspective I get is because I've been able to do such hard things in running, I can deal with almost anything else. Like a simple example of this is if someone cuts me off in traffic, I don't get pissed off anymore. I used to, but I don't get pissed off. You know why? Because I've dealt with much more difficult things like still going 80 miles into a 100-mile race, or setting a course record for a 50-miler a couple of years ago. Those things in life that come up are way easier because of the intentional suffering and difficulty I push myself through. And what I've come to learn over the last couple of years is if you don't continue to do that, then that grit and mental toughness goes away. It's something you need to continue working on. It's not that you can do one hard thing intentionally and then everything, it's easy for the rest of your life, or you have a better perspective the rest of your life. It's like a muscle that you need to train. And I don't think running's the only way. It's the way that works for me. But there may come a point where I move away from running and there's other things that I'm going to have to push myself in. A relationship, some new hobby, a job, making money, a family, whatever that might be. I'm going to have to intentionally do that, because when I back away from doing hard things, I get depressed and I get anxious, and I go back into that 15-year-old kid's mindset that wanted to take his own life. And so I think the reason why I run is just so I can feel better. And I'm not quite sure if that's like a cope, or if that's my calling, to put myself in uncomfortable positions, and that helps me feel better in everyday life. And, maybe I'm covering something up or numbing, but when I'm running and training and racing, everything else in life feels great. And so I'm going to continue to do that until I feel like I need to maybe find something else, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. My name is Reese Jones. If you like running stories, motivational stuff, training tips and tricks, I've done quite a few things that I would say is successful in the running world, like running 10 marathons in 10 days or setting a couple different course records. I've won some ultras, a 10K once upon a time, run a sub 3-hour marathon. And so I have quite a lot to offer, and really am on a mission to help people enjoy running, get fitter and faster, and avoid or get through their injuries as a runner. And so if you like stuff like that, hit that subscribe button. If not, that's totally fine. I appreciate your time anyways. I know it's valuable, and I hope you got something out of this video, or maybe felt a little more inspired, or maybe started to think about why you run or why you want to get into running. I hope to see you sometime soon in the next video or on the trails. Peace!